Allah did not create the heavens and the earth and everything between them except with truth and for a fixed term. Yet many people reject the meeting with their Lord. Surah 30, verse 7 to 8. One of the issues that mislead people most is their belief that what the majority does is right. Man is usually inclined to accept what he is taught by the people around him, rather than finding the truth by thinking. He sees that things that seem odd to him at first sight are most of the time considered ordinary by people, and moreover are not even noticed by them, and after a while he too begins to become accustomed to them. For instance, a great part of the people in his circle does not acknowledge that they will die one day. They don't even let anyone talk about this topic in order not to remember death. Seeing this, the person looks around him and says, "Since everybody is like that, there must be nothing wrong with my behaving the same way," and begins to live without remembering death at all. If, however, the people around him had acted with fear of Allah and struggled with due struggle for the hereafter, most probably this person too would have changed his attitude. Or to give another example, on TVs and magazines, hundreds of news items of disasters, unfairness, injustice, oppression, suicide, homicide, theft and swindle are covered, and thousands of needy people are mentioned every day. Yet many people who read these news items turn the pages of the newspaper or switch to TV channels with inner calm. In general, people don't think why there are so many of these kind of news items, or what has to be done, and what kind of precautions have to be taken in order to stop them, or what they themselves can do about these problems. Neither do people around them think over those problems. Most people hold others responsible for these problems, employing such logic as, "Is it up to me to save the world?" Yet, thinking like this is not a benefit, but a loss for the person. Indolence is a factor that keeps the majority of people from thinking. Because of mental indolence, people do everything the way they have always seen and to which they are used. To give an example from our daily lives, when something needs repair, men use the methods they have been taught since their childhood. They are generally reluctant to practice a new method that might be more practical and efficient. Such people's styles of speech are also the same. The way an accountant speaks, for example, is just the same as all the other accountants he has seen in his life. Doctors, bankers, salesmen, people from all classes have particular styles of speech. They don't seek to find the most proper, the best, the most favorable way of thinking about it. They just imitate what they have heard. The solutions found to problems also reflect indolence in thinking. For example, the manager of a building brings to the building's garbage problem exactly the same solution as the one brought by previous managers. Or a mayor tries to solve the traffic problem by looking at what preceding mayors have done. In many cases, because of not thinking, he is unable to find new solutions. Certainly, the examples cited here are issues from which people suffer harm in their everyday lives. Yet there are subjects far more important than those which, if people fail to think about, may cause them to suffer great and eternal loss. The cause of this loss is one's failure to think about the purpose of existence in the world, and disregarding the fact that death is unavoidable and that they will definitely meet the day of reckoning after death. In the Quran, Allah invites people to reflect upon these crucial matters. In Surah Hud, verses 21 through 24, it is stated, "Those are the people who have lost their own selves. What they invented has abandoned them. Without question they will be the greatest losers in the hereafter. As for those who believe and do right actions and humble themselves before their Lord, They are the companions of the garden, remaining in it timelessly, forever. The likeness of the two groups is that of the blind and deaf, and the seeing and hearing. Are they the same as one another? So, will you not pay heed? There is a conviction prevalent in society that deep thought is not good. People warn one another saying, "Don't think so much, you'll lose your mind." This is surely nothing but a superstition invented by people who are remote from religion. People should not avoid thinking, but thinking negatively or being carried away by exaggerated scruples and misapprehensions. Since those who don't have strong faith in Allah and the hereafter think without committing themselves to goodness, but instead negatively, then by their contemplation they achieve outcomes that are not entirely beneficial. They think, for example, that the life of this world is temporary, and that one day they will die, but this causes them to display great pessimism. This is because, conscientiously, they are aware that the life they pass without following the commands of Allah prepares a wretched end for them in the hereafter. Some, on the other hand, are pessimistic because they believe that they will totally vanish after death. A wise person who believes in Allah and the hereafter draws completely different conclusions when he reflects on the fact that the life of this world is temporary. First of all, his realization that the world is temporary causes him to engage in zealous struggle for his real and eternal life in the hereafter. Since he knows that this life will sooner or later end, he does not become carried away by the ambition for worldly passions and interests. He is extremely resigned. Nothing in this temporary life annoys him. He always cherishes the hope of attaining an eternal and pleasant life. He also greatly enjoys worldly blessings and beauty. Allah has created the world incomplete and flawed in order to test people. The intelligent person thinks that if there is so much beauty, which is pleasing to man even in this incomplete and flawed world, then the beauty of paradise should be unimaginably more attractive. He hopes to see in the hereafter the originals of every beauty he views here, and he comprehends all of these by thinking deeply. Therefore, it would be a great loss to worry about, what if I become pessimistic by finally seeing the truth, and hence avoid thinking. For a person who always entertains hope by virtue of his faith in Allah and who thinks positively, there is nothing that leads to pessimism. Most people think that they might be able to evade various responsibilities by avoiding thinking and setting their brain to work on certain issues. By doing so in the world, they succeed in holding themselves aloof from many subjects. One of the greatest ways in which people are deceived, however, is in their supposition that they can escape their responsibilities to their Lord by not thinking. This is the main reason why people don't think about death and life after death. If man thinks that he will die one day and remembers that there is an eternal life after death, he will necessarily have to strive strenuously for his life after death. He, however, deceives himself, supposing that he is saved from such responsibility when he does not think of the existence of the hereafter. This is a great self-deception. And if man does not attain the truth in this world by thinking, he will understand with death that there is no escape for him. In Surah Kahf, verses 19 to 20, it is said, "The stupor of death will come in truth. And it is said unto man, that is what you were trying to evade. The trumpet is blown. That is the day of the threat." One of the greatest mistakes people make is their not thinking because of being swept away by the flow of daily life. The majority of people spend their whole lives in a rush. When they reach a certain age, they have to work and look after themselves and their families. They call this the struggle for life, and complain that they have no time for anything as they have to rush around in this struggle. In this so-called shortage of time, thinking is one of the things for which they cannot spare any time. Therefore, they are swept away wherever the flow of their daily lives takes them. In this way of life, they become insensitive to events taking place around them. The aim of man, however, should not be to consume time, rushing from one place to another. The main issue is to be able to see the real face of this world and assume the way of living accordingly. No one's sole purpose is earning money, going to work, studying at university, or purchasing a house. Surely, man may need to do those things in the course of his life, yet there is a subject that he should always bear in mind while doing them. The purpose of his existence in the world is to be a slave of Allah, to work for Allah's pleasure, His mercy, and paradise. All works other than this purpose can serve only as a means, helping man to attain his true purpose. Adopting the means to certain ends as the real purpose is a serious deception with which Satan misleads man. Someone who lives without thinking may easily take these means as his real purpose. We can cite an example from our daily lives. It is undoubtedly a good act for one to work and produce beneficial things for society. A person who believes in Allah performs such an act eagerly and expects a reward from Allah both in the world and in the hereafter. If a person, on the other hand, does the same thing without remembering Allah and only for worldly interests such as status and people's appreciation, he is making a mistake. He has made something which he should use as a means of earning the pleasure of Allah his purpose, and he will regret this when he faces realities in the hereafter. In a verse, Allah refers to those who indulge in this manner in the life of this world as follows: like those before you who had greater strength than you and more wealth and children, they enjoyed their portion. So enjoy your portion as those before you enjoyed theirs. You have plunged into defamation as they plunged into it. The actions of such people come to nothing in this world or the hereafter. They are the lost. Surah 9, verse 69. Each person is an independent individual responsible to Allah by himself alone. It is very important to bear in mind that Allah tests people in the life of this world. The indifference of others, there being people who don't think, reason, and see the truth, is, most of the time, a part of this test. A person who thinks sincerely does not say, "Most of the people don't reflect and are unaware of all these, so why should I alone think?" On the contrary, he takes warning by thinking about the heedlessness of those people and takes refuge in Allah in order not